It's an honor to be here. I know I speak on behalf of our team. This setup's awesome. We've got a lot of work in, had opportunities to practice at site. Thank Tulane, too, gave us an opportunity to practice over there today. And, just the people in the city, awesome experience for our kids. But we're at that point right now. We're ready to get this game going. So start that off, answer anybody's questions.
If you would raise your hand, they'll bring a microphone to you. Then please identify yourself by name and media outlet.
Hey Todd, how you
Hey
doing?
brother,
man?
what's up, man?
Good. You probably had a little chance to look at this season defensively. What do you feel like you've done the best? Where has it maybe not come up where you wanted it? And what's it going to take Tuesday night?
Well, we've settled in a little bit on our lineup. I think that's been important for us. We've had a little bit of a roller coaster of injuries, and I think the thing that we probably need to do a lot better job of, I know we've talked about this beforehand, is on our third down defense. I think it's noticeable right now. It's one of those things, and we're going against a very good third down offense. And I think that'll, the extension of drives with the more chances of explosive plays. And I think college football has come into, making sure the ball's in front of you, but more importantly is turnovers and third down defense. And those are the two things that I'd like to see majorly pick up this game coming up.
Hey, Coach. Bob Ballou, CBS Austin. This morning, a lot of the Georgia players talked about how your defensive backs are really physical and they want to be full-on tackling as opposed to just trying to chop guys down. How proud does that make you when you hear another team talking about the physicality?
Yeah, it's good to hear it because I know that was one of probably the gripes before we got here in terms of our physicality. But it's practiced. I think anybody that's come up and seen one of our look teams or just us going one-on-one versus our offense, it's not one of those things that you can turn on and turn off. It's you have to do it all the time, and there's an expectation. And your kind of rite of passage to get on this defense is you have to be physical. That's the one thing. And I think that's the kind of the demands of when we came in here, but now it's player-led. So if a player sees somebody being soft in practice or, turning down hits or whatever it is, they're kind of looking at us before they get on him and say, you know what, he doesn't belong on this field. So that's a great compliment, but it's one of the things that one of many things that our kids bought into when we first got here, is this is the way we're going to do it. And once you put it on film in a game, or once they figure out, like, you know what, this is something that's unique, something that maybe not a lot of people are going to do in practice situations, and they feel like it's an advantage when they go to the game. So it's a good compliment for us.
Over here on the left-hand side.
Hey, Coach, this is Anthony Dasher of UJSports.com. When you look at Georgia's offensive line, the size and athleticism there, just kind of what you see from those guys and the challenge that's going to be for your defensive front.
Yeah, just massive. That's the biggest thing. The bigger bodies that can move. They're a zone team, so they can get that wave rolling on you and they can gobble you up. So it's going to be a heck of a challenge. You see a lot of the times you see some bigger body guys when they get to 320, 330. That you may be slow-footed, or you see guys that just can't move very well. These guys can. And when you look at the matchups, all this stuff, you look at how they recruited in the last couple years. I mean, they're getting these top guys that can play ball too. I mean, they're just not big, pretty-looking kids. They can play. So it's going to be a tremendous challenge for us. We're going to have to hold up. We're going to have to tackle really well, and we're going to have to anchor down, especially with our front three guys.
Over here in the center.
Todd, Chris Savares, KXAN News. When you look at Holyfield and Swift, that 1-2 combo in the backfield, what kind of challenges does that present?
Yeah, they're kind of push button speed guys. Guys that can turn a corner as fast as guys that we've seen. And me personally, it's been a while, and it's a credit to those guys. When you think about the tailback position in the last couple years and the guys that they've had come through their program. But both of them, the thing that I love about both those cats is they will try to run you over, too. They're not just all finesse guys, and they're not just, hey, listen, I'll outrun you. They'll put their shoulder down, and they'll try to, and honestly, now I love that part of it, they're going to hit DBs, they're going to hit linebackers, and those guys are going to remember them. That's how they play, with that kind of streak to them. But also to say, I can make you miss. Both kids are great at one-cut decisions. They can put their foot in the ground. You know, every team that we've watched stacked up the box, 8-man fronts, 9-man fronts, where they got to make somebody miss. They've done it consistently. So a heck of a challenge to go, you know, to run behind a big offensive line too.
Over here on the left in the back.
Todd, Cedric Golden, Austin American Statesman. Your many years of coaching, is there a team that Georgia reminds you of with this running attack where they have two guys like that can, one can run you over and the other one can make you miss?
Not off the top of my head. I just go back to the recruiting part of it. I just think it's a heck of a job by Coach Smart and his staff to be able to get these kids in their program, to really wait their time, and the way that they've developed them. To me, that's what I think they've done a tremendous job. You know, the second he got in the door, they were going to make this, hey, look, we're going to recruit the best kids out there, but not only that, is we're going to develop too. And so to go back and compare him to somebody I've gone against, I'm sure there's somebody, but off the top of my head, I can't say. I just been so impressed with the amount of depth at a lot of these skill positions to keep guys motivated and to develop.
Back over on the right side.
Hey, Todd. Roger Wallace, NBC Austin. When you face the Big 12, third down's important like any game.
Yeah.
But you may face fewer third downs because they go a little bit slower. Does that put even more of an emphasis on it?
Yeah, sure. You know, it's going to be unique. I mean, they will push the gas at times and go up tempo, but there'll be a lot of times where I think Jake does a good job of getting them in and out of plays that he likes. But third down, I mean, the way that we've been running, you know, we've been in the 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, and 3rd and 5, and we just got to do a better job in those situations of cutting it loose with our kids and playing it. But to answer your question, if in our league maybe play 17 third down attempts in comparison to maybe 12 to 14, everyone's going to be critical because they have so much speed and so much explosiveness that, you know, if they extend drives or get you in space, they can hit home runs. So I think you saw that a little bit with the Clemson-Notre Dame game, especially early. You saw that with the Oklahoma game early in the game, that this game is a lot about third down. Third down turnovers, if you can get stops and get your offense on the field and at least minimum change field position, if you don't get scores, it's a big part of what the game is now.
Over here on the left on the front row.
It's Oliver Richardson from Orange Bloods. Coach, you always have messages to your team every week, just kind of things that you just want them to focus on, especially from a mental standpoint. What's been your message to your players leading up to the game?
Well, I think it's a little bit twofold. I think, you know, great opportunity here, Sugar Bowl, we get it. But to go out there and remember the way that we've trained, it's been 5 months. I mean, when you really think about it, we started in like the first week of August. These kids have been together. We've been together for 5 months. You know, cut it loose. Cut it loose. Don't go out there and hesitate and do that stuff. I think when you get into these environments, and back in, 2010, 2012, when you're talking about our program at Texas, been on those big stage, and we hit a little bit of a lull, and then all of a sudden we get back into the big stage moment. You know, this is still a learning process for our kids, but I want them to understand that, you know, the way that we practice, the demands we put on you, you know, that stuff is there for a reason. So when you get into stages like this, you know, don't wait, don't evaluate, don't hesitate. Go out there from the kickoff and cut it loose. And I think that's probably the theme that kind of collectively overall to go along with, you know, this kind of the normal stuff that we talk about. You know, control the run game, get turnovers, and you know, limit them on third down conversions. That's kind of the defensive philosophy. But I can see this. You know, we got an opportunity to play in the Big 12 championship and went out there, and I thought for the most part there was some plays during the game where you feel like, hey, man, cut it loose, go, go, go. And I think this will be the same thing, where you get into a big stage versus an opponent that you have not seen before. Oklahoma a little bit different because we have played them before. There's a comfort level to go out there and just cut it loose. So we'll just keep talking about that in the next couple of days. And the real cool part about it, in my opinion, is this is it. This is it. There's no next game for the guys that are seniors. This is collectively our last game together as a group. So what is there? Just cut it loose and go have fun and go play really, really hard within our system in the way that you practice. And that's why the practice part is so important, because you kind of earn that right to go on the field by what you've done. And I thought we practiced, in my opinion, very well since we've been here. And I thought we've had some really good practices back at home in Austin.
Back over here on the
Brian
front row.
Davis, Austin American Statesman. Speaking of those seniors, we're not going to get to talk to you again until probably the spring.
Right.
So when you're looking at what is ahead for 2019, you rebuild the line, you're going to lose some DBs. What are some of the things at the top of your list that you're going to be addressing in January, February, and March?
Well, did not get in specifics of that part, but obviously we will have a lot of experience that is gone. So I think that what it'll come down to is how these guys go in winter workouts, how they go in spring, how do we have to modify things, because we can throw a lot of defense at these kids because of a lot of them have played a lot of defense. So I think that'll be a decision there. But I think at the end of the day, I think we're all focused and concentrated on the guys and what they've given to us. I think about Anthony Wheeler all the time. I think about a guy that's gone through multiple coordinators. I think about a guy that, didn't have an opportunity for 2 years to go to a bowl game, now has an opportunity in the Sugar Bowl. So I think we'll get into that stuff after this game, after we get a chance to decompress, after we have one more run at the second signing date, and then we'll look back and we'll start looking at the cut-ups. We'll start looking at individual players and say, okay, this is what he really does well, this is what he doesn't, and we'll modify that way. But to give you a blanket kind of where the whole defense got, I don't know that. I haven't even went to that land yet, but we will. We'll go there in February and March before we go out in spring.
We have time for one final question in the back.
Craig Wade, Longhorn IMG Radio Network. Todd, we've talked, you've been asked about the offensive line and the running backs. We've talked quite a bit about the opposing quarterback. What's your take on Jake Fromm and his receiving quarterback?
Yeah, well, the receivers are the same way. Big speed, great catch radius. And from Jake's standpoint, it's distributing the football. To me, he's in a check-with-me system. He'll get up to the line of scrimmage, make sure they're not in bad plays. If they're in a play, they'll run. But if you think about it, it's almost like a point guard distributed versus, an NBA All-Star team. They're all great shooters. His job is to get the ball out to his playmakers. To go along with, to me, does a really good job of reading coverages and not making bad throws. So the combination, once again, goes back into distribute the football. And a lot of these guys can their top-end speed's incredible. It reminds me a lot of our league with some of the elite guys, some of the guys from Oklahoma, where it's just push button, and if you take a bad step or you're non-fundamental or you're high in your pad level, they'll go right by you. But, just been impressed. And once again goes back to just a great job of recruiting and developing by their staff.
We actually have time for one more on the front row over here.
Jeff Alhorns, 24/7. Todd, I want to ask you about Gary Johnson. I know this is your last game with Gary, and he's got some rareness to him with the sprint background, but when you look at his skill set, at 230 to not just run like he does, but the physicality aspect, is he really kind of the perfect linebacker you need, not just for the league, to defend spread offenses, but to play against a team like Georgia, and that skill set, as rare as it is, how have you tried to identify that, in recruiting? Because some of the guys you just signed, a couple weeks ago seem to have some of that type of skill set.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yes, on the kind of the mold of that linebacker. From our standpoint, that's seen on film, but it's documented through times. That was the one thing about Gary. It was documented. He went like 10.52. So once you see that, it's real. Sometimes on the actual recruiting film, somebody might look fast, but they might be going against not great competition, so they look a lot faster than what they do. But that's what we're looking for. And I think they come in all sizes, too. I think the one thing, especially in our state, that, if a guy's a safety, if a guy's a running back, if a guy's maybe a dual threat quarterback, they come in all shapes and sizes, because sometimes there might not be that big-time athlete that they're playing at inside linebacker or an outside linebacker. So it's identified that way. Gary is kind of the example that we want to get, and I think you're going to see that across the country, because of the amount of spread that people run and the amount of big plays that are made just because guys can't run them down. Everybody's going to miss a tackle. So the more speed you got on the field, the better off you have of getting them on the ground.
Thank you, Coach.